Team DeathNote is now on Patreon. Follow us to unlock exclusive content and watch videos that we release for up to 1 or more days earlier than on YouTube, with unique tiers such as Namekian Race, Saiyan Warrior Race, Super Saiyan Elite, Godly Heroes, and Godly Villains. Click the link on the description down below. Now back to the video. Hey yo, what's up guys? It's Gabi from Team DeathNote, and I am coming at you today with how to build a competitive deck that's an original design yours. So this is a segment that we are doing now. So how to build a competitive deck. There's different ways, there's different factors, there's different choices that you put into the deck to actually make a competitive deck. So no one really has an original design. And because what you're thinking of building, someone has either A, built it but doesn't have a YouTube account. That's why you haven't really heard about the deck, or you haven't seen the deck. Or, B, had the same idea as you already, just because there's like a broad expansion of players out there that good at deck building, but and they have these ideas, but they don't really know how to put the deck into work. And that's where our YouTubers actually come in, because they actually make the decks and they play test, or they come up with a design with somebody at their locals or a friend of theirs have, and they see the deck, and they might either improve upon it, or they might post it up as is, and then you guys actually see it, or see you are the first one to do it. And if you have, I congratulate you, because you are an original design builder type of deck. And your deck doesn't have to be part of the meta to be competitive. Now, this is one thing that I've always said. Your deck doesn't have to be part of the meta to be competitive. So basically, leaders that people don't look at and what other people are playing, you don't really have to play the same thing that the other people are playing to have a competitive deck. You just have to know what to put into the deck so your deck can actually be competitive. So the only reason that a deck is meta is due to the fact that somebody that made that deck topped at a major event, and now a lot of people either A, built the same deck as that player card for card, which I have no type of opinions of. If you want to build a deck card for card, what people like to call net decking, there's a lot of people that don't like net decking, but let's face it, this is what the internet is here for, to give you a guide. Net decking is actually a guide so you can improve upon or make it yourself, or play card for card, because there's nothing wrong at that. Because first of all, there's people that they are deck builders, and then you have people that are players, and then you have people that are both deck builders or players. So I have no type of negative comments towards that type of situation. And B, you incorporate a few different cards to fit their playstyle. Just like I say, just because you net deck, it doesn't mean that you necessarily want to play that deck as is, because you have a different play style than that person, but you do acknowledge that the deck is actually very good. So what you do is that you switch out a few cards so that you can accustom the deck to what you are accustomed to be playing. So if you're an aggressive player, but the deck profile that you just saw is not really aggressive, you just incorporate a couple of aggressive cards into the deck and you make it your own. And see, it has made the public realize that that specific leader has an overall good effect that makes it consistent. Now, this is actually something that's very important: consistency. The deck, or any type of deck, goes into what we call meta, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, is because of, due to the fact of what that leader can do. So if that leader is actually consistent up to the point where you always win the games, or the game is actually very close, that you don't know who is going to win, I believe that is a competitive deck. And it could be any type of leader card. It could be a Gohan leader card, it could be a Cell leader card, it could be Krillin later on into the future, Beerus. We actually went to the shop tournament where there were 5 Beerus players, so that makes you to believe, who mains Beerus at their locals. Currently, I have no idea, but these people are playing Beerus because they have a key factor to that Beerus deck, and it's all actually about what type of time and what type of thought that you give to that leader so you can make the deck consistent. Because let's face it, guys, DBS card game, you know, just like every other card game that's out there, basically is built upon what is good, what is on the range right now, you know, what are the other people playing, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's good. You have to know what the other people are playing if you're going into a competitive scene and you actually want to go in and actually top at your locals or top at the major events. And now one thing that we're going into is aggro. Aggro is the aggressive type of play style. So you have to choose a leader that can keep up or make aggressive plays with more consistency. And this is the truth. Make your opponent discard cards from his hand from your relentless attack. So an aggressive deck is always going to have to be attacking. And you're going to have to build the deck to be really competitive up to the point where you make your opponent dump a amount of cards per turn. So you put pressure on your opponent per turn so he or she can keep on dumping cards from hand while you're attacking. And possibly making him lose some of his battle cards that's out into the battle area as well. And you just keep going in. So you're making your opponent lose the resources that he have in his hand that he was thinking about playing the next turn or 2 turns over. And you're actually making him defend with those type of cards, dumbing down his play up to the point where he doesn't necessarily knows what he's gonna do, or if he had a counter attack measure to counter you, now he has to switch up the strategy because he's seeing that you're going way too aggressive and he can barely keep up with you. So that is an aggressive style type of deck. Then we have the overall type of deck, which you know, you have to have a draw engine. You have to have removal cards that is the answer that if your opponent calls out a threat, you have to have a way how to remove that threat off of his side of the battlefield because you're an overall player. You have to make sure that you can call out threats as well. So you have to have threat cards that can actually put your opponent into the danger zone. And you have to have your untapping mechanism. So if you're splashing blue, you know, like Sensu Beans or a leader that can actually untap, kind of like the starter Goku. He's the Soul Striker Goku from set 1, which is actually a big part of the meta right now currently. And if you have Rampant, make sure you can get it. Then if you have Rampant, make sure that you can get to it. And if you can't make sure that you have an early access to these cards, you have to have cards that can respond towards your opponent early throughout the game, because you don't want to build your deck that revolves the type around, you know, one type of game style. Like let's say that you have the Majin Buu deck, but your only answer is Majin Buu. What happens if you don't call out that Majin Buu? You will actually end up losing the game because you have no type of other responses to what your opponent is actually doing against you. So then that makes the deck inconsistent, guys. And now we have the control measurements. Make sure that you have lots of answers to different situations, and this is very important when you're playing control. You have to make sure that you can keep being on top of your opponent, always one step ahead of your opponent. Being a smart player, and you have to know when to use your cards and read into your opponent's plays. So that's actually very important. You have to read into your opponent's plays and what he has in hand and what can you do to actually counter his plays. You have to play mind games with your opponent. This is very important because then your opponent starts to either A, overthink his plays, which is bad, B, play reckless, which is actually bad as well, C, send body signals. And you have to learn how to pick up certain body signals always. See, I am the type of player that I like to see how my opponent reacts to certain situations, because that way he actually gives out signals for you to realize what type of cards he has in hand, or what type of plays was he thinking about, or could he handle that play, or he wasn't sure that your deck can actually make that. So now you're making your opponent wonder what type of other cards are you running in your deck. And that's actually very good, because when your opponent falls down due to pressure, is actually that's when it's your time to actually make a move and turn the game around, or even defeat him during the next turn or 2 turns as well. And the one thing that you have to have is a game ender, so you have to have a strategy on how to finish the game if you are a control player, guys, because what's the reasoning of always controlling the board, controlling the situation, if down along the line, when it comes up to it, you can't really finish your opponent, so then your opponent turns around the game and beats you. And you know, this is basically an idea of how to build a competitive deck and the original design. Later down the line, we will try to make videos actually, you know, like deck building, showing you what type of choices that you have currently to actually put in the deck, you know, and saying, you know, why I chose this card over this card, because this card does such and such, but this one doesn't do it because whatever, you know. So we are actually going to be working on those type of video, guys. And like I said, if you guys stuck around until the end, thank you very much. We really appreciate your support. And just remember, follow us on Patreon to receive tomorrow's videos, today's, or the day after next, such a forth and such on. This is Gabi from Team DeathNote, TDN, and just remember, we said it first, guys. Peace out.
Que lo que es fortuna